What's going on, guys? So on Monday, August 11th, Apple released iOS 26 Developer Beta 6, with iOS 26 Public Beta 3 releasing soon after. In addition, Apple released iOS 26 Developer Beta 7 this Monday, August 18th, with Public Beta 4 releasing that same day. Like typically, all releases were released alongside their macOS, iPadOS, watchOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, and visionOS counterparts. Let's begin with everything Beta 6. It was about 1.6 gigabytes on my iPhone SE 2nd generation, which I'm using to beta test. The build number here is 23A5318C. So we have a C at the end of the build number, so we're approaching that A, which means we're closer to final release, but still have some betas left. It took about 1 to 2 minutes to download, which is typical. It took about 18 minutes to prepare and 10 minutes to install, similar to or a tad bit longer than Beta 5. And the first change we have is a new onboarding screen when you first install Beta 6. So you can see right here, you can see it's like device setup sort of, and it's showing the hello screen and then all the different languages. And then it says press home to open. So we'll go ahead and do that. Put in your passcode. And now it says software update complete. Your iPhone has been updated to iOS 26.0. Hit continue. And then it's going to bring you for these terms and conditions. We'll hit agree. And then it's asking you to set up some other things. So I haven't seen this online, so this is interesting. So it's asking you to set up something like Siri. So it's basically telling you what's new with Siri in iOS 26, or at least Beta 6. We're not sure which beta this was added in. It might have been added this beta or not, but at least on older devices, now it says press and hold the side button to initiate Siri, just like on newer devices without the home button. And of course, just say Siri. We've had that option for a while, but now that maybe the default, of course, you could probably still change that back. That's just something they changed here, and that's why you get this splash screen. So we'll go ahead and hit continue, and then it's going to have you choose a voice for it, so I'll just choose any one of these.
The colors of the sky fade with the setting sun as the stars begin to shine through the clear night.
I'll hit voice 1 for now, and then do continue. And then here's the new onboarding screen. This is what everyone's talking about. So it says personalized iPhone with new apps for app icons. This is all liquid glass. The first page says welcome to iOS 26. It says introducing a new design with liquid glass. And it shows an animation there. That's what it looks like on the second page. You can see it showing all the different app icon options like light, dark, tinted colors, and then focus on what matters with liquid glass controls. So it shows that, and it's showing it in the camera app for that one. And then it sort of autoplays into the next menu. You can always scroll between these. It says access menu options with controls that fluidly morph. It's showing the Safari app there. And that says search is within reach and easy to access in apps. So it's showing the search feature in the notes apps there. And that's the end of it. You can hit continue. So it's basically just walking you through the liquid glass design so you know how to navigate it and its new features. And then we get a really nice slide over animation there, where that new onboarding screen slides out of the way. And then we get this welcome screen. Of course, this welcome wording here, it is liquid glass. So is this button down here. One of the major new changes in iOS 26 Beta 6 is new ringtone options, and these aren't actually completely new ringtone options, but instead they're new variations of the reflection ringtone. So before this in Beta 5, we had two options. We had just default reflection, and then we had something called Alt 1. Some people called it like glassy. We still have that here, but we now have 6 options here in addition to the default option. So that makes for 7 options total with the reflection ringtone. So I'll go ahead and play you each of them. So here's the default option, the default reflection. This is the one that's been default for years. And then the second one is called Buoyant. So that's Buoyant's reflection. And then the third one is called a dreamer reflection. Dang, so that one's like a hard rock or more electronic. That one sounds really nice. So then we got the 4 option. It's called Pond. And then the 5th option is called Pop. And then the 6th option is called Reflected. Let's play that. So this is the one we've had ever since iOS 26 Beta 1. It was called Alt 1. Now that has an official name, and it's called Reflected. And then the final one is called Surge. That one's even more electronic-like, or maybe even pop-like. So a lot of these sound really nice. Some of these are things you might find on Apple Music, so this is some really nice stuff here. I really like these new ringtones. It's a lot of options there. There's also an entirely new ringtone in iOS 26 Beta 6, and it's called Little Birds. I'll play it for you right here. So again, some really nice ringtone options here, and I love that Apple is adding new ringtone options. Again, I really like these options, and hopefully they keep adding more in the near future. Maybe not this beta cycle as we're nearing the end of iOS 26 developer betas, but maybe next year or even in other 0.1 releases, maybe throughout the next year. There's also a new splash screen in the Photos app. This is a What's New splash screen, and we get these with most new apps after every big update every year. And so now we get in the Photos app, and this is usually the time of beta cycle where they add these. That way, whenever someone first updates to iOS 26, they're introduced to the new features so they know how to navigate them. So this one says, What's new in Photos? Updated navigation, switch between library and collection views along with quick access to search, more customization for collections, adjust the layout in addition to reordering collections and items that appear in pinned. And so that's all that is there, just 2 new major features they're explaining, and then you can hit continue, then open your Photos. Now on to Beta 7. It was about 1.78 gigabytes on my iPhone SE 2nd generation. Keep in mind that it will appear a lot larger on newer devices, but many of those files taking up that space are temporary. Those will free up space after the update when they delete themselves. I didn't catch the exact install time, but it was much faster than Beta 6, especially considering it was running slow and hasn't been used for a minute. The build number here is 23A5326A. So the A at the end of the build number symbolizes it's close to final release. Both of these are great signs that the iOS 26 betas are on the right track. One of the new features in iOS 26 Beta 7 is in the battery settings, and you'll see it's only available on newer devices enabled with Apple Intelligence, but under power mode at the bottom, towards the bottom here in this bottom section, there will be a new option under adaptive power called adaptive power notifications. We actually saw this enabled to all devices that were enabled with it back in Beta 5 actually, but now there's a new option that will let you toggle on or off adaptive power notifications. So now that's customizable. You can run adaptive power without getting those notifications so they don't get in your way, or if you'd like to see those notifications, there's now an option for that so you know when it's running. So I can't show you this because I'm on an older device. it doesn't have that. It just says low power mode down here. That's all it says. There's no option for power settings, unlike newer devices. Another change in the battery settings is when you're in these settings and you plug in your iPhone, and if you have a charge limit set, it will give you an alert that says iPhone will occasionally charge to 100% even if the charge limit is below 100%. Now, I don't have the option to set a charge limit on this iPhone. That's only on newer devices, but that will show up right here under that estimated time to charge right there. And this isn't anything new. I have my iPhone 16 Pro set to 90% charge limit, and it occasionally still will charge to 100%. Say maybe if I'm out of town or I'm on vacation, it'll send stuff like that, and just to make sure you can get enough battery to get through the day with confidence. If you change your sleep schedule to something that your iPhone thinks is unusual, that will usually charge to 100% instead of your charge limit. This is nothing new. It's just that the alert telling you that is new, so that because some people were confused, even I was confused at first. Okay, why is it charging to 100%? I have a charge limit set. So now that just clarifies a couple things for you. Now, I may be wrong, but I definitely noticed this is new. I'm not sure which beta this was added. I don't know if it was either 6 or 7, or it may have even been beta 5 or earlier, but I do know there's this new option in the sounds and haptics settings. It says input right at the top, and that basically allows you to change your input. So you've basically been allowed to do this for basically forever now through third-party apps. Third-party camera apps, that is. You can change the microphone you're using, especially video conferencing apps, the phone app. You can choose whatever microphone you want, but now you can change it across the board here, and you can do this in the settings, and that changes it universally. So if you have iPhone microphone here, and then it'll say automatic iPhone microphone. And just to demonstrate this a bit more, if you open something like your AirPods or another Bluetooth device that has a built-in microphone, it will give an option to use that microphone. So I'll demonstrate that right here. Once I pull out the AirPod, it will turn on, and then it will pair to the iPhone, and then it will show that as an option. And then after you disconnect your AirPods, it will go back to the automatic. So that's why this automatic option is here, is because that is what it will be automatically. I don't think you can choose HomePods or something like this as an option, but rather built-in devices. Maybe if you're old school and you have wired earbuds, you plug into the lightning ports. Or, like I said, if you have wireless earbuds like AirPods or other Bluetooth headphones, that will show up here. So that's just a new option here. Now, beta testers on the internet are saying that the app animations to launch apps are faster. They improved this in beta 6, and now it seems like they improved it yet again in beta 7. However, I have yet to see this on my iPhone SE. I think if you have the home button iPhone, you won't get this. So you can see I can go in and out of apps here, and you can see it just seems slow, and it's comparable to what it was previously on iOS 18 or in earlier betas of iOS 26. So you can see that there, it's just not working as well for me. And you saw right there when I opened the App Store, there's a new splash screen for the App Store. And you can see the new splash screen here. It says what's new on the App Store and Apple Arcade, for that matter. It says more granular age ratings. It says better understand how appropriate an app is with updated age ratings. Of course, all of these have glyphs next to them too, just for a nice visual touch. 2, it says accessibility nutrition labels. The description says learn if an app supports accessibility features like a voiceover or larger text. The final bullet point is top played games chart. It says discover the most played Game Center games every day. And then there's a privacy disclaimer, and then you can hit the continue button and close this menu. And one of the main new features in beta 7 is that now there is blood oxygen available in the health app. So we knew this was coming because it came with iOS 18.6.1. It's one of the rare features that came to an older version of iOS, even though I guess iOS 18 is still current. But you can see if you go to health app, vitals, scroll down, and then there's blood oxygen right there. So now this is added. We saw this again last week of iOS 18.6.1, and some Apple Watch models have the access to it, so now that's an option for you. So when should we expect iOS 26 beta 8? So considering that we got iOS 26 beta 7 last Monday, August 18th, I would assume we should get beta 8 this Monday, August 25th. And then the public beta, which would be public beta 5, I believe, should be coming out later that same day, a few hours after the developer beta comes out. After that, that will probably be the last full beta in the iOS 26 developer cycle. And then we'll wait probably 2 weeks. We'll probably see nothing the week of Labor Day. If we do, it obviously won't be on that Monday since that's a holiday. We probably won't see anything that week. The week of the 8th, we should see the new iPhone announcement, the new iPhone event. Apple will announce the iPhone 17 series. And the day of that keynote, we should see the RC build for iOS 26 come out later that day, with the final release coming sometime in the week after that, likely between Monday and Wednesday. So that's the sort of timeline for what we expect next as far as betas. So that pretty much does it for this video. I will be doing another video about beta 8 sometime in the next week or so. And then after that, I'm going to be mostly going to more product unboxings. So those should be pretty exciting. So stay tuned for that. And then thank you guys again for 200 subscribers. It's really a big milestone to me. It means a lot. So thank each and every one of you. But other than that, that's all I got for today. So check out the videos on screen and I will see you next time.